The real American family that vanished during dinner. I bought the house because it was 40% below market value. The realtor said the previous owners had to relocate suddenly for work. Estate sale, as is, close in 30 days. I'm a freelance journalist working on a tight budget. And a 3-bedroom colonial in Westchester County for $240,000 doesn't come around twice. I should have asked why the dinner table was still set. Not just set full. 4 plates with food still on them. Silverware placed mid-meal. Glasses with water still in them. A thin film of dust floating on the surface. A casserole dish in the center, its contents long since fossilized into a gray-green mass. The estate company will clear all this out before closing, the realtor said, moving quickly through the dining room. But I noticed she didn't look at the table directly. Kept her eyes on her phone, on the doorway, anywhere else. What happened to them? I asked. The family? Relocated? She repeated. Very suddenly. Work thing. I found out the truth 3 days after moving in. The family didn't relocate. The Harmon family, David, Jennifer, and their 2 children, Emma and Cole, vanished on October 14, 2019. Disappeared from their home during dinner. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, no bodies ever found. The case was still open, and I was sleeping in their house. I'm not easily spooked. I've covered crime scenes, interviewed families of victims, spent nights in rough neighborhoods chasing stories. I deal in facts, evidence, documentation. But there was something wrong with that dining room. The estate company never came. I called the realtor 4 times straight to voicemail, no callback. I finally just boxed everything up myself. Threw out the rotted food, packed the dishes, collapsed the table, and shoved it in the basement. That night, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of silverware clinking. I lay in bed, listening. Definitely coming from downstairs. Fork against plate, knife scraping. The subtle sounds of people eating. I grabbed my phone and crept to the top of the stairs. The dining room was dark, silent, empty. I checked every room, every lock. Nothing disturbed. No signs of entry. Just my imagination, I told myself, old house settling. Pipes expanding. But when I walked past the dining room on my way back upstairs, I smelled something. Pot roast, potatoes, home cooking. The same meal that had been rotting on the table when I moved in. I did what I do best, I researched. The Harmon case had made local news but never went national. Family of 4, seemingly normal, vanished without a trace. The last person to see them was a neighbor who waved to Jennifer Harmon around 6 p.m. on October 14th as she brought groceries inside. When David didn't show up for work the next morning and the kids missed school, police did a wellness check. Found the house locked from the inside. Found dinner on the table, still slightly warm. Found their phones, wallets, car keys, everything exactly where it should be, except the family. The investigation turned up nothing. No financial problems, no marital issues, no enemies. David worked in insurance. Jennifer was a part-time teacher's aide. The kids were 8 and 10 years old. They simply ceased to exist between 6 p.m. on October 14th and 8:30 a.m. on October 15th. I found a deeper rabbit hole on a true crime forum. Users had theories ranging from witness protection to alien abduction. But one post caught my attention, from someone claiming to be the Harmon's neighbor. The weird thing nobody talks about is that this wasn't the first time. The house has a history. Different families, same story. Look up the Pritchards, 1987. I spent the next 6 hours digging through old newspaper archives. The Pritchards, family of 3, vanished from the same address in March 1987. Dinner on the table. No trace. Before them, the Castellanos in 1962. Same thing. And in 1941, a family named Brennan. 4 families across 8 decades. All disappeared during evening meals. All from the same house. My house. I should have left that night. Put the pieces together and walked away. But I'm a journalist. This wasn't a ghost story, this was the story. Missing families, a pattern spanning 80 years, and somehow it had been buried, forgotten, overlooked. I started interviewing anyone connected to the case. A retired detective who'd worked the Pritchard disappearance. A woman whose aunt had been friends with Mrs. Castellano, the adult son of the Brennan family's next-door neighbors. They all said the same thing. Perfectly normal families. No warning signs. Just ... gone. My father used to say that house was hungry, the elderly man told me, his hands shaking as he held his coffee. Said it took families every so often. We tried to warn people, but who believes that kind of talk? Sounds crazy. What did he mean? Hungry? I asked. The old man looked at me with watery eyes. He meant exactly that. The house eats families whole, and it's always patient. Waits decades between meals. I thanked him and left, my journalist skepticism warring with a growing unease. That night, I didn't sleep in the house. Got a motel room, told myself I was being rational, taking precautions while I investigated further, but at 6:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was an alert from the security camera I'd installed in my living room. Motion detected. I opened the app with trembling hands. The camera showed my dining room empty when I'd left that morning. But now the table was back, set up exactly as it had been when I first toured the house. 4 plates, 4 glasses, steam rising from the casserole dish in the center, and 4 figures sitting in the chairs. The image quality was poor, faces blurred, but I could make out their shapes. 2 adults, 2 children, the Harmons. Still having dinner, still there. I drove back to the house doing 80 on the highway. I don't know what I was thinking that I'd confront them, document them, prove they were real. When I burst through the door, the dining room was empty again, but the smell lingered. Hot roast and something else. Something underneath. Sweet and rotten at the same time. I checked the camera footage, rewound it, watched it again. The figures sat motionless for 17 minutes. Then, one by one, they stood up, walked toward the kitchen. The last one, the smallest, the daughter turned and looked directly at the camera before following the others. The footage cut out. When it resumed 3 minutes later, the room was empty. Table gone, I went to the kitchen. There was a door in the back corner that I'd assumed was a pantry. I'd never opened it. It had been stuck, handle refusing to turn. Now it stood ajar. Behind it, stairs led down into darkness. Not the basement. I'd been in the basement. This was something else. Something I hadn't seen in any blueprint or inspection report. I should have called the police. Should have run. Instead, I turned on my phone's flashlight and descended. The stairs went down further than they should have. Further than the foundation should allow. The walls changed from drywall to plaster to stone, like I was traveling backward through the house's construction history. At the bottom, a hallway. And along that hallway, doors. 6 of them. The first door had a brass plate. Brennan -1941. The second, Castellano 1962, Pritchard 1987, Harmon 2019. 2 more doors had no nameplates yet. Just empty brass, waiting. I stood there in the cold darkness, my breath forming clouds, understanding creeping over me like ice water. The house didn't make them disappear. It kept them. I reached for the Harmon door, my hand shaking. I wouldn't. I spun around. A man stood at the base of the stairs. Middle-aged, wearing clothes from another era, 1980s maybe. He looked solid, real, but wrong somehow. Like a photograph pretending to be 3-dimensional. Robert Pritchard, he said. I was 34. My wife was 32. Our daughter was 7. What is this place? I whispered. The house's stomach, he said simply. We're what it's digested. Trapped in the moment it took us. Forever. That's not possible. That's not, you're here alone, he interrupted. Single, no family, my blood went cold. The house only takes families, he continued. Complete sets, parents and children. That's what it feeds on. The bond, the unit. Why are you telling me this? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because you're safe, you can leave, you can walk away. The house is no use for someone alone, I ran. Back up those stairs, through the kitchen, out the front door. Didn't stop until I was in my car, hands gripping the wheel, my whole body shaking. Robert Pritchard was right. I could leave. I should leave. I stayed in the motel for a week. Put the house on the market. Took a loss, didn't care, just needed out. The calls from my realtors stopped coming after a few days. The listing vanished from the website. When I drove by, there was no for sale sign in the yard. The house wouldn't let me sell it. I've been living here for 6 months now. I tell myself I'm documenting everything. Building a case, gathering evidence, preparing an expose that will force people to listen. But really, I'm just trapped in a different way than the Harmons. The house doesn't want me. It can't digest me. I'm useless to it alone. Sometimes I hear them at night. The families moving behind those doors beneath the kitchen, living their last dinner over and over again. The Brennans from 1941, the Castellanos from 62, All of them preserved in amber, feeding something I can't begin to understand. I've tried to bring people here, friends, family, dates. They all find excuses to leave quickly. Bad vibes, they say. Something off about the place. The house repels anyone who might help me. Last week my sister called. Said she and her husband and their 2 kids were planning a road trip through New York. Asked if they could stay with me for a night. I opened my mouth to say yes. To warn her away. To tell her everything. But the words that came out were, "I'd love that. When are you coming?" She'd be here on October 14th. I tried calling her back, tried texting. All my messages failed to send. My calls go straight to voicemail. October 14th, the same date the Harmons disappeared. Exactly 4 years later, the house is patient. It waited decades between the other families. But I think my presence here, my investigating, my disrupting, I think it made the house hungry again. And I think I just offered it dinner. I'm writing this now as a confession and a warning. If you're reading this, if you ever see a house in Westchester County being sold for too little, too fast, too good to be true, there are 5 nameplates on those doors now. The 5th one reads, Harmon -2019. The 6th is still blank. But I heard someone in the basement last night, hammering metal, engraving letters. And I think I know what name they're writing. If you're still here, stay with me. Subscribe.